My husband slapped me so hard I nearly fell because his mother told him to. The sting radiated across my cheek, white hot and unforgiving. For a second, I couldn't comprehend what had just happened. The world tilted beneath me. My hand shot out, grabbing the back of a chair to steady myself. The smell of garlic and melted cheese from the lasagna I had spent hours preparing filled my nostrils, but all I could taste was blood from where I had bitten the inside of my cheek. Daniel's face was twisted with something I couldn't recognize. Rage? Disgust? Or worse, certainty. I reached up, my fingers trembling, pressing against the place where his palm had struck me. My skin throbbed beneath my touch, and yet the pain wasn't the worst part. It was his eyes. Those dark, familiar eyes, once so full of love, now stared at me like I was something filthy. Is it true? His voice was raw, shaking, but it wasn't with regret. It was accusation. Behind him, she stood. Vivian, his mother, the woman who had never thought I was good enough for her son. Her blood-red lips were pursed in satisfaction, her manicured fingers resting lightly on Daniel's shoulder, as if she were a queen watching her knight dispense justice. I forced myself to speak, though my lips felt numb. What are you talking about? Vivian let out a dramatic sigh, shaking her head like she was disappointed in me. Don't play innocent, dear. I saw you. The room swayed. Saw me? Saw me what? She took a step forward, her heels clicking against the floor, her presence suffocating. Sneaking around, running to the bathroom at odd hours, looking guilty whenever you're on your phone. I told Daniel the truth, she squeezed his shoulder, that you've been having an affair. My breath hitched. The accusation was so absurd, so vile, I actually laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. You're insane, Daniel's jaw clenched. So... you're saying she's lying? Yes! I exploded, my voice cracking. Are you seriously standing there asking me that after you just hit me? His expression flickered, just for a moment, doubt, guilt. But Vivian leaned in, whispering something in his ear, and just like that, the doubt vanished. She said she saw you sneaking around, Sarah, running off at night, making excuses. She said, he swallowed. She said the baby might not be mine. Everything inside me turned to ice. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I wanted to scream at him, to shake him, to make him see how insane this was. But all I could do was stare at him, stunned beyond words. And then, as if my own body couldn't handle the betrayal, the nausea I had been fighting all evening won. I lurched forward, barely making it to the sink before throwing up. Behind me, I heard Vivian make a disgusted noise. See, she murmured, it's guilt. Her body is rejecting her lies. Daniel took a step back, his own breath shallow. Jesus, Sarah, and then from the floor, something caught my eye, my purse. In my rush, it had fallen over, its contents spilling across the tile. My phone, my key, and right there, in the open, a positive pregnancy test. The world stopped. Daniel's entire face drained of color, his lips parted, his gaze frozen on the little plastic stick on the floor. I wiped my mouth, forcing myself to stand. My whole body trembled. I could barely breathe past the burn in my throat, the sharp pain in my chest. I looked him in the eyes and whispered, I was going to tell you tonight. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stood there, staring at the proof of his child on the cold floor, while his mother, the woman who had turned him against me, looked on in horror, because now there was no denying it. I was pregnant, and he had just struck the mother of his child. The silence was unbearable. Daniel's hands twitched at his sides, his breathing uneven. He looked from me to the pregnancy test and then to his hand, as if he couldn't believe what he had done. Sarah, he croaked, his voice cracking. I flinched when he moved toward me, instinctively, a tiny, involuntary reaction, but it was enough. Enough to make him stop. Enough to make his face twist with something like self-loathing. Oh my God. Vivian, to my disgust, actually rolled her eyes. Oh, don't be dramatic, Daniel. You didn't know. Besides, if she hadn't been sneaking around, shut up. The words came from Daniel, low, barely above a whisper, but full of something dangerous. For the first time since I met her, Vivian looked startled. Daniel's hands curled into fists, his shoulders tense. He turned to her slowly. You told me she was cheating. His voice was hoarse, almost fragile. You made me believe. His breath hitched. Jesus Christ, Mom, I hit her. And suddenly, Vivian wasn't so smug anymore. I backed up, my heartbeat roaring in my ears. I didn't care about their family drama. I didn't care that Daniel was finally realizing what had happened. I just needed to get out. I reached for my purse, my hand still trembling. My phone was ringing. Chloe, my next-door neighbor, my best friend. I answered, my voice barely steady. Chloe, I heard everything. My stomach dropped. What? I was coming over to drop off that book I borrowed. I heard everything from the porch. I turned, my eyes locking onto the front door. Through the window, I could see her standing there, her phone pressed to her ear, a look of sheer fury on her face. I'm taking you out of there, she said firmly, right now. Daniel was still staring at his hands at the wreckage he had created, but I didn't care anymore. I grabbed my things and walked toward the door. Vivian scoffed behind me. Oh, don't be ridiculous, Sarah. He's sorry. And besides, you have a baby on the way. You can't just leave. I turned so fast she actually flinched. Watch me. And with that, I stepped outside, away from my husband, away from the life I thought I had, into the arms of the one person I could trust. As Chloe pulled me into a tight embrace, I exhaled for the first time in what felt like years, because I was done, and this was only the beginning. Chloe's car smelled like lavender and stale coffee, a scent I would normally tease her about, but tonight I barely noticed it. My hands were still shaking, my cheeks still burned, the weight of everything I had just left behind pressed down on me, but I didn't have the luxury of breaking down, not yet. I was done crying over Daniel. The house disappeared in the rearview mirror, its warm glow mocking me. Just an hour ago, I had been standing in that kitchen, full of hope, ready to share the happiest news of my life. And now I was leaving with nothing but a purse, a bruised cheek, and the cold realization that the man I loved had believed his mother over me, that he had struck me before even asking for the truth. Chloe drove in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. She was furious, raging on my behalf. But I wasn't furious, not yet. I was something worse. I was calm. It was the kind of calm that came after a storm had destroyed everything in its path. The kind of calm where you stand in the wreckage of what used to be your life and realize you have nothing left to lose. I need to stay with you, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Chloe's eyes flicked toward me briefly before returning to the road. Obviously, she said, and don't even think about saying it's temporary. You're staying as long as you need. I nodded, staring out the window. The world outside was dark, but I didn't feel afraid, not anymore. I had been living in fear for too long, letting that woman chip away at my life, my marriage, my sanity. Vivian had gotten exactly what she wanted. She had turned Daniel against me, but she had made one mistake. She thought I would stay. She thought I would take it. She didn't know me at all. I should have seen it coming. Looking back, I could see the cracks forming long before tonight. They started small, little criticisms from Vivian, tiny manipulations that Daniel swore were harmless. She's just set in her ways, Sarah. Mom's going through a hard time right now. It's just how she talks. She doesn't mean anything by it. At first, I believed him. I convinced myself I was overreacting, but then the small things became bigger things. Vivian started rearranging my kitchen while I was at work, throwing out my spices, replacing them with her own. She went through our finances, insisting Daniel should manage our money because men handle those things better. She had a key to our house before I even realized Daniel had given her one. And Daniel? He started changing. He stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped reaching for my hand absent-mindedly the way he used to, started questioning things he never questioned before. Why did I spend so much time on the phone with my sister? Why did I go grocery shopping alone instead of letting him do it? Why did I keep my work separate from him? The questions seemed innocent, but I knew where they were coming from. Every single one was planted by her. She wanted control, and she got it. I was so stupid. I thought I could love Daniel enough to fix it. I thought I could outlast her. I had been wrong. When we pulled into Chloe's driveway, she turned off the engine but didn't move. Instead, she turned to me, her blue eyes sharp and unwavering. "You're not going back," she said. It wasn't a question. I exhaled slowly. "No? Good." Silence stretched between us. Then quietly she asked, "Do you want to go to the police?" I hesitated. The logical answer was yes. He hit me. He deserved consequences. But the truth was I wasn't sure what I wanted yet. What I did know? I needed to be smart. I had spent years believing in Daniel, trusting in our love, fighting for our marriage. But tonight had proved something I could never ignore. Daniel wasn't mine anymore. He belonged to her. And if I was going to take my life back, I had to be strategic. I had to move in silence. "No police," I finally said. "Not yet. Chloe didn't argue, she just nodded like she understood exactly what I meant. Because I wasn't walking away from this empty-handed, Vivian thought she had won. She thought she had crushed me beneath her perfectly manicured heel. But she didn't realize I was just getting started. The first thing I did when I got inside was lock my credit cards. Vivian controlled Daniel, and Daniel controlled our finances. If I wasn't careful, I'd wake up tomorrow and find out my bank account had been emptied. Next, I emailed my boss, telling her I needed a few days off. She replied almost immediately, "Take all the time you need, sweetheart. Let me know if I can do anything." I stared at those words longer than I should have. Because it hit me, I had more support than I thought. Daniel wasn't my whole world. Then I made the biggest decision yet. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the best divorce attorney I could find. It was late, so I left a voicemail. I kept it short, but my voice was steady. "My name is Sarah. My husband hit me tonight. I want out and I want full custody of our unborn child. Call me back as soon as possible." When I hung up, I felt lighter. For the first time in months, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. I expected Daniel to call. I expected him to text, and sure enough, my phone started buzzing at 3 a.m. "Daniel." I didn't answer. At 3:30 a.m., another text. "Daniel, please, baby, let's talk." At 4:15 a.m., another. "Daniel, I didn't mean it. I was just upset. You know I'd never hurt you." At 6 a.m., a final one. "Daniel, come home." I stared at my phone. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't coming home. I wasn't his anymore. The next morning, Chloe and I sat at her kitchen table, coffee steaming between us. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. I looked at her, at my best friend, the woman who had heard everything and didn't hesitate to protect me. I nodded. "I'm sure." Then I reached for my phone and sent the only message I would ever send to Daniel again. "Sarah, you will hear from my lawyer." I hit send. And for the first time in a long, long time, I smiled because Vivian wanted me gone, and I was about to show her what that really meant. Vivian called first. I wasn't surprised. If there was one thing I knew about my mother-in-law, it was that she never let things slip out of her control for long. The moment she realized I wasn't crawling back, that Daniel's pleading texts weren't working, she did what she always did. Took over. My phone vibrated violently on the table, her name flashing across the screen. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail. Less than a minute later, a text followed. "Vivian, this childish tantrum has gone on long enough. Come home and we can put this behind us." I stared at the message, my stomach twisting with something sharp. Come home. Like I was some disobedient child, instead of a woman who had been hit by her husband. Like she was the one in charge here, and I was just some nuisance ruining her perfect little world. I exhaled through my nose and deleted the message without replying. She didn't like that. Over the next few hours, the calls kept coming, then the emails, then the voicemails, each one nastier than the last. At first, she kept the mask on, pretending to be the concerned mother-in-law just trying to mend things. "Sarah, dear, let's be reasonable. You're emotional. Pregnancy hormones can make women so unstable." Then came the fake sympathy. "I know you feel hurt, but Daniel loves you. He just reacted poorly because of how you've been behaving." And then when I still didn't respond, the real Vivian showed up. "You are ruining my son's life. You think you can just take his child away from him? Over one little misunderstanding? The courts will eat you alive, sweet." There it was. The arrogance, the power trip. She thought she had won already, that I was just delaying the inevitable. I could practically see her sitting in their pristine living room, sipping her overpriced tea, smirking at her own brilliance. Vivian had spent years controlling Daniel, chiseling him down into her perfect little puppet. She wasn't about to let some silly wife of his change that. I clenched my jaw, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles ached. She thought she had power. She had no idea I had already taken it from her. At exactly 3 p.m., Daniel received his own wake-up call. My lawyer, a woman named Rachel Pierce, didn't play around. She wasn't cheap, but she was ruthless, and I needed ruthless. Rachel filed an emergency protective order against Daniel and Vivian, citing the physical assault and the manipulative behavior that led to it. Daniel was legally barred from contacting me. If he tried, the cops would handle it. And the best part? Vivian was explicitly named in the order as a harmful influence that could not come near me or my unborn child. The moment Daniel got served, my phone buzzed again. Not from him, from her. Vivian, you manipulative little brat. You think this changes anything? I smirked at the screen. Oh, she was livid. Good. I typed back a single sentence. Sarah. It already has. Then I blocked her number. That night, Chloe and I were curled up on her couch watching some trashy reality show neither of us were actually paying attention to when her phone buzzed. She frowned, then her eyebrows shot up. It's Daniel, I stiffened. What? She turned the screen toward me. It was a text. Daniel, I need to talk to Sarah, just once. Please. I exhaled slowly. I knew this was coming. He had been silent since the legal papers were delivered, but Daniel was never going to just accept this without a fight. What do you want to do? Chloe asked carefully. I reached for her phone, my fingers steady. Then I replied myself. Sarah, from Chloe's phone, you made your choice, now live with it. A few seconds passed, then, Daniel, I didn't choose this. She lied to me, Sarah. I see that now. She twisted everything. Please, let me fix this. My heart twisted, not with love, not with longing, but with something colder. Pity. I wasn't falling for this. Not anymore. I knew exactly what this was the moment Daniel realized he had lost. Vivian had controlled him his entire life. Now, for the first time, he was truly alone. No mother whispering in his ear, no wife standing beside him. I could almost hear him, unraveling from the inside out. And I didn't care. Sarah, you put your hands on me, Daniel. Nothing you say can fix that. No response. That was the final blow. The nail in the coffin of whatever marriage we had left. I set the phone down, my chest rising and falling steadily. Then I looked at Chloe and smiled. I want ice cream. Chloe blinked. Then she grinned. That's my girl. 2 days passed, 2 blissful, drama-free days where I started to feel like myself again. I went to my first prenatal appointment without Daniel, and for the first time since finding out I was pregnant, I actually felt excited. Then the bomb dropped. It was Saturday morning when Chloe's doorbell rang. I was still in my pajamas, hair messy, holding a mug of tea when I heard her voice, Vivian. I froze. Chloe's head snapped toward the door, her expression murderous. Are you freaking kidding me? Before I could react, she was already yanking the door open. Vivian stood on the porch, looking as perfectly put together as ever. She smiled sweetly. May I come in? No, Chloe snapped. In fact, I should call the cops. Vivian waved a hand dismissively. Oh, please, I'm just here to talk to Sarah. That's not illegal, is it? I walked forward, slowly, heart pounding, but my expression blank. I wasn't afraid of her, not anymore. I met her eyes. Say whatever you came to say, then leave. Vivian's smirk returned. I just wanted to remind you, she said smoothly, that Daniel is still the father of that baby. You can throw your little tantrum, run to your lawyers, play the victim all you want, but legally, he will always have rights, and you can't take that away from him. I smiled. Actually, Vivian, I said calmly, I can. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? I stepped forward, tilting my head slightly. See, I've been documenting everything. Every manipulative stunt, every phone call, every time you tried to control me, control him. And guess what? The courts don't like abusers, especially when they target a pregnant woman. Her nostrils flared. You're bluffing. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Then I let it drop at her feet. She hesitated, then snatched it up. As her eyes scanned the words, her face turned pale. Restraining order. Filed that morning. Barring her from any contact with me or my child, she staggered back like she had been slapped. I leaned in slightly. You don't control him anymore. Vivian's hands trembled. This isn't over. I just smiled again. Oh, Vivian, it already is. Vivian stood frozen, gripping the restraining order like it was a death sentence, and in a way it was. I could see the panic flicker across her perfectly composed face, the realization settling in. She had lost. For years, she had controlled Daniel. For months, she had manipulated my marriage, and for weeks, she had tried to break me. But I wasn't broken. I was just getting started. I crossed my arms, my voice calm, steady. You should go, Vivian, before Chloe calls the police. She glared at me, her jaw tightening, but she wasn't stupid. She knew if she pushed any further, she'd be leaving in handcuffs. With one final sharp breath, she turned on her heel and stalked off, her heels clicking furiously against the pavement. I didn't watch her leave. I simply turned around, stepped back inside, and locked the door behind me. Chloe exhaled dramatically from behind me. Holy shit! I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Yeah, She blinked at me, a slow grin spreading across her face. That was so badass. For the first time in weeks, I laughed, a real, genuine laugh, and it felt good. Vivian thought she had power. She thought she was untouchable, but now she was just another desperate woman grasping at control she no longer had, and I was about to make sure she never got it back. The first step of my revenge was simple: expose her. Vivian spent years crafting an image of herself as this perfect, charitable, respected woman, a loving mother, a supportive pillar of the community. It was all bullshit, and I had proof. I spent the entire night going through every voicemail, every text, every single shred of evidence that showed who Vivian truly was. I compiled it all into one neat, undeniable file, and then I sent it to everyone: the local news station, the board members of the charity she chaired, the executive team at her high society country club, the Facebook moms who worshipped her. By sunrise, Vivian Matthews was trending. I sat back on Chloe's couch, sipping my coffee as I scrolled through the absolute carnage unfolding online. Vivian Matthews caught manipulating daughter-in-law into abusive marriage. Former employees say she's a nightmare to work for. Audio leaked of Vivian Matthews gaslighting her own son. Listen for yourself. Chloe walked into the room, still in her pajamas, her phone in hand. "Dude, have you seen this?" I grinned. "Oh, I've seen it." Vivian's entire reputation was imploding. And that was just the beginning. Daniel called 8 times before noon. I ignored everyone. By the afternoon, he showed up at Chloe's house. Chloe saw him first through the window. "No," she grabbed her phone. "I'll call the cops." I put a hand on her arm. "Wait." I wanted to see him, needed to see him. So I stepped onto the porch, arms crossed, staring him down. He looked like hell, unshaven, disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. "Sarah?" he breathed, his voice cracked. "Please?" I tilted my head. "Please what?" He swallowed hard. I didn't know. About my mom, about... His voice broke. "She controlled everything, my whole life." I stared at him, waiting. "I see it now," he whispered. "And I hate myself for it." "Good." He took a hesitant step forward. "I want to fix this." I raised an eyebrow. "Fix what?" His lips parted, confused. "Us." And that's when I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made him flinch. "Daniel," I said, my voice razor sharp, "there is no us." His whole body sagged. "But..." "No," I cut him off. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to come here all sad and sorry expecting me to fix you." He ran a shaky hand through his hair. I don't know what to do without you," I smiled. "Then you should have thought about that before you hit me." His face crumpled, but I didn't care. I stepped back inside and shut the door in his face. Vivian was publicly ruined, Daniel was emotionally wrecked, but there was one last thing I needed to do: win the legal battle. Rachel, my lawyer, wasn't just good, she was lethal. And when we walked into that courtroom 2 weeks later, she tore them apart. She laid everything out: the physical abuse, the gaslighting, the emotional manipulation, the threats from Vivian. And when it was Daniel's turn to speak, he had nothing, because the evidence was undeniable. The judge didn't hesitate. Full custody granted, child support mandatory, restraining order extended indefinitely. Vivian collapsed in the courtroom. Daniel looked utterly destroyed, and me, I walked out free. The first morning in my new apartment, I stood on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over the city. Chloe stepped beside me, bumping her hip against mine. "So, how's it feel?" I took a deep breath. The air was lighter, like I can breathe again. She grinned. "That's what happens when you remove toxic trash from your life." I laughed. "Yeah." I glanced at my phone. There was one last message from Daniel. "Daniel, I miss you. I'm sorry." I deleted it. Then I turned to Chloe with a smile. "Let's get breakfast," because for the first time in forever, I was free, and I wasn't looking back. That was over. I had won in court. Daniel was legally out of my life. Vivian had been publicly and socially obliterated. My future was mine again, and for the first time in years, I was free. But then the letter arrived. It came in a plain white envelope, slipped under my apartment door while I was out. No return address, no postage. Just my name, written in precise, sharp lettering. The moment I saw it, my stomach turned. Chloe was in the kitchen pouring coffee when I walked in, holding the envelope like it might explode. She took one look at my face and frowned. "What's wrong?" I held it up. "This." She set the coffee down and crossed the room. "Who the hell still sends actual letters? What does it say?" I swallowed hard, then tore it open. A single sheet of paper, one line of text. "Blood is thicker than water. You can't keep her from me forever." My hands clenched around the paper. Chloe read over my shoulder, then muttered, "Oh, hell no." Vivian, of course it was her. I should have seen it coming. Women like her, they don't disappear, they regroup, they scheme, and they strike when you least expect it. I had destroyed her publicly, but that wasn't enough for her. She still wanted control. And worse, she still thought she had it. I let out a slow, measured breath. My pulse pounded in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had prepared for this. Vivian thought she could get to me. She had no idea I had one last move left to play. That afternoon, I met with Rachel, my lawyer. She wasn't surprised. "She's predictable," Rachel said, tapping the letter against her desk. "She has nothing left but desperation, and desperate people make mistakes." I nodded. "So, what's our next step?" Rachel leaned forward, her sharp blue eyes glinting. "We go nuclear." She laid out the plan and I listened, a slow satisfaction creeping in. We weren't just going to keep Vivian away, we were going to make sure she was legally erased from my child's life, forever. Rachel filed for termination of grandparental rights, a legal action that would ensure Vivian had no claim, no visitation rights, no contact. The letter she had sent? The final piece of evidence we needed. She had threatened me. Again. And the courts? They didn't like that. Within weeks, it was official. Vivian was nothing to my child. She could never come near her, and if she tried, she'd go straight to prison. Word got out, people talked. She became a pariah. She lost everything. Her charity seat revoked. Her social circle gone. Her perfect reputation shattered. And Daniel, well, he was exactly where he belonged, alone. After our divorce was finalized, I didn't look back. But I heard things, how he struggled without her money, how he bounced from job to job, how he tried to fix his life but never quite managed to escape the mess he had made. And honestly, I didn't care, because my life, it was thriving. Months passed. My baby girl Lena was born on a quiet Tuesday morning. She was perfect. Dark curls, big brown eyes, a little dimple on her left cheek. She was mine. Not Daniel's, not Vivian's. Mine. And when I held her for the first time, staring into that tiny, perfect face, I whispered the promise I had been carrying inside me since the night I walked away. You will never know their names. You will never fear them. You will never need them. Because I had made sure of it. I built a new life, a better life, one where I wasn't afraid, one where my daughter would grow up knowing what real love looked like, not the toxic, suffocating control that Vivian had poisoned Daniel with. I bought a house, started my own business, found peace in places I never thought I would, and I never looked back. The final text came nearly a year after the divorce. "Daniel, do you ever think about us, about what we could have been?" I stared at the message for a long time, and then finally I typed my reply. "Sarah, no," and I blocked his number, for good. I don't regret a thing. Vivian played her games. She thought she was the queen. Her parents were, quote, the most frightened of the frightened, that we were all just pieces on her chessboard. But she forgot one thing. I don't play by her rules. And now she has nothing. Meanwhile, I have everything that matters. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Would you have fought back, or would you have walked away and let karma do the work? Let me know, because people like Vivian, they exist everywhere, and sometimes the only way to win is to burn the whole game down.